off this countdown, we have the HMS Sea Serpent. In August of 1848, the crew on the HMS Daedalus was sailing in the South Atlantic when they spotted this terrifying creature. According to the ship's captain and several members of the crew, they claimed that the monster was 60 feet in length, with 4 feet of its head raising out of the water. This massive sea beast lurked around the ship for 20 minutes before taking off. To this day, we don't know what it is that they saw. They described it as being a long snake with a dragon's head. Pretty weird and creepy, right? Well, they aren't the only ones who witnessed this too. It was spotted a second time by the American brig Daphne, and in fact, crew on board even shot at it. Scientists claim that maybe they just saw a whale. But come on, a bunch of experienced sailors would know the difference between a whale and something that's not a whale. And at number 9 today, we have the Mary Celeste. And if you guys are liking this video so far, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. To this day, the mysterious case of the Mary Celeste is considered one of the creepiest cases in nautical history. Basically, in 1872, the Mary Celeste was found abandoned in the middle of choppy waters. The crew was nowhere to be found. All the cargo on board remained untouched. Now, the lifeboats were missing, which makes people believe that the crew tried to get off the ship and flee. But why would they just abandon their ship like that? Well, we got a number of theories. 1. A sea monster got them. 2. A pirate takeover occurred. 3. They were abducted by aliens. Or 4. They consumed bad food and they all went mad. I know, it seems wild. To make matters weirder though, the crew and lifeboats were never found. No one knows what happened aboard that ship. In our 8th spot, we have the Baltic Sea Anomaly. In 2011, a group of divers went out looking for treasure in the Baltic Sea, and they came across something weird. It was a 70-meter long weird object laying 300 feet below sea level. This thing has since been named the Baltic Sea Anomaly, and no one knows what the heck it is. It's just this massive steel-looking structure shaped like a disc with some weird patterns on it. Gets weirder when the divers claim their equipment randomly stopped working when they got closer to the object. There was a massive electrical interference there. So what is this thing? Honestly, we don't know, but some people think it's a glacial deposit left from thawing glaciers. Or it's part of a UFO spacecraft from one extreme to another. Could be either or, who knows. In our 7th spot, we have the 3 men. In 2007, 3 Australian men headed out on an expedition together. 3 days later, their ship was found drifting by itself in the middle of the ocean. The men were nowhere to be found. That's not all. On the ship, they found knives all over the cabin floor, as if there had been a fight and people were scrambling for weapons. What happened to these men still remains a mystery to this day. But of course, we got the theories. One is that they got into a devastating fight and they all ended up dying. Or 2, their propeller became snarled in a fishing line. One dude went to go free the line but then fell into the ocean. The second dude tried to save him and then fell in as well, and then so on with the third guy, or who even knows. Okay, we don't know for sure, that's just a theory. The only thing we do know is that this case is pretty creepy. Moving on to number 6, we have the Kraken. So it may just be that the Kraken is real, but it's not what we think it is. In fact, the legend of the Kraken was thought to have been born after a number of sailors spotted giant squids while sailing. So the Kraken might actually just be giant squids. In 1870, a giant squid washed up in New Zealand. Legend goes that it was as tall as the top of a ship's main mast, and it could easily take over a ship by wrapping its tentacles around the hull and crushing it. Is this true? Who knows? But no one believed that giant squids were real until around 2005. That's when scientists caught a photo of one. Then in 2013 they got a video of one. Now they believe there are millions of giant squids out there. The mystery here is, what beast did the sailors encounter in 1870? Was it a ginormous squid, or was it a kraken, or is a squid a kraken? Who even knows, okay? There's just so many questions out there that we need answers to. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the cursed shipwreck. Back in the early 2000s, a natural gas company was laying pipeline in the ocean when they came across a shipwreck. Nowadays, this shipwreck is considered cursed or haunted. Let me explain why. So after the shipwreck was discovered, a team was sent down there to check it out. But everything that could go wrong did. First, the exploration sub malfunctioned right as it was getting ready to explore the wreck. Then the Navy sent a research sub down there and it literally self-destructed upon entering the water. Then over the course of a couple of years, other attempts have been made to explore the ship, but those have gone wrong as well. None have been successful. So now it's believed that this ship is cursed and doesn't want anyone entering it. In our fourth spot, we have the disappearing submarines. In 1968, 4 different submarines all mysteriously went missing. As a result, people believe that this can no way just be a coincidence. Something was out there sinking these subs. The subs were the USS Scorpion, the Soviet submarine K-129, a French submarine Monarch, and the INS Dakar. In fact, the French sub and the INS Dakar disappeared only 4 days apart. The French submarine has still never been found. What's weird is that it disappeared only an hour away from its port, so you think they'd be able to track it down, but nope. So what are the odds that 4 massive submarines go missing the exact same year? What could have caused this? We'll probably never know. In our third spot, we have Sylvester Butler Jr. Apparently a number of people mysteriously vanish off of cruise ships each year. Most of them have never been found. Today, let's look at the weird case of Sylvester Butler Jr. In May of 2017, Sylvester boarded a cruise ship headed to the Pacific Islands. While on board though, the crew noticed he was acting weird. He kept to himself, barely talked to anyone else, and housekeeping claimed that he never unpacked his bags. The only charge on his bill was the occasional soft drink he would order to his room. Also, every time the cruise made a stop, he never left the ship. Then somewhere between Fiji and the final port Sydney, crew noticed that he was missing. No one knows what happened to him. And the ship's CCTV footage revealed nothing. It's sad, but theory goes that Butler jumped off the ship and took his own life. Apparently he suffered from a chronic genetic kidney disease, so maybe he wanted to end his suffering, but we don't know for sure. On top of that, I believe that his body was never found. Coming in our second spot today, we have the Stronsay Beast. The Stronsay Beast is the name given to a massive carcass that washed ashore on Stronsay Island on September of 1808. At first, people thought it was just the body of a shark, but this creature had paws instead of fins. So then people were hella confused. Not only that, but it was 55 feet long. But part of its tail was missing, so clearly this thing was even bigger than that. This beast was described as follows, and I quote, "Its flesh was described as being like coarse, ill-colored beef, entirely covered with fat and tallow, and without the least resemblance or affinity to fish. The skin, which was gray-colored and had an elastic texture, was said to be about 2 inches thick in parts." End quote. Not only that, but its bristles glowed in the dark when wet, and the contents in its stomach were red. So what is this beast? The Natural History Society of Edinburgh believes that it is a sea serpent of some sorts. Maybe the Loch Ness Monster or its long-lost brother, who knows. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the Orang-Medan. So this next mystery is pretty freaking creepy, I'm not gonna lie. It's gonna keep you up at night. So in 1947, 2 American ships received a distress call from the ship the Orang-Medan. The SOS call was from a crew member that stated everyone on board the ship had died. Then all of a sudden, his SOS ended with his last message being, "I die." When the ships arrived, they found the ship completely unharmed. The entire crew, including a dog on board, had died. Everyone had a terrified look plastered on their face. No one knows what happened to the ship. Theory goes though that maybe they were exposed to some dangerous gas and died. That seems to be the most common theory out there.
Number 10. Backyard aliens. In late April of this year, Las Vegas police officers investigated reports of 2 unknown entities falling from the sky, and on the same night a nearby resident called 911 to report something 100% not human on their property. According to authorities, a man called 911 to report 2 unknown entities in his backyard after he and his family saw a similar object fall from the sky. The man described the creatures as 8 to 10 feet tall beings that appear to be like aliens with big mouths, house, big shiny eyes, and added that they're 100% not human. They were looking right at him and his family from their backyard, and he kept clarifying that it was not a joke and that he was terrified of whatever was lurking in the dark. While initially open for several days, the department has since closed the case. The family said officials returned to the home over several days to investigate. Representatives from nearby Creech and Nellis Air Force bases said they were not involved in the incident and suggested contacting the Metro Police. A spokesperson for the Pentagon did not immediately respond to questions regarding this event. So who knows what they truly saw? Number 9. Strange lights. Since the 1940s and possibly even earlier, there have been a strange light phenomenon observed in the Hessdalen Valley, Norway. The spectacle has a form of white or yellow light of unknown origin standing or floating above ground level. Between 1981 and 1984, the lights were observed up to 20 times per week, but have drastically reduced in frequency since then, about 10 to 20 times per year. Now why the decrease all of a sudden? No one knows, and no one knows where the lights come from, but UFO enthusiasts took this as a sign that the valley was a portal to other worlds. Now it wasn't just conspiracy theorists that were interested in this, as the strange bursts of light in the 1980s attracted physicists too, interest piqued by the idea of some unexplained natural phenomenon. In the decades since, scientists have determined the glow likely comes from air turned into plasma, and despite ongoing research and numerous working hypotheses, there is no convincing explanation of the origin of these lights, and it seems like it will always be a mystery. Number 8. Cities in the sky. On April 21st, 2017, the citizens from China were awestruck to see an image of a sky floating in the clouds. This phenomena had happened years before in 5 different locations in China, but there was still no clear clarification on how or why this happens. On April 21st, 2017, the citizens from China were awestruck to see the image of a city floating in the clouds. This phenomenon had also happened years before in 5 different locations in China, but there was still no clear clarification on how or why this happens. Some scientists came up with different theories, such as aliens attempting to cross from a different dimension, the second coming of Christ, or is it the image of the holographic test by the Chinese government? Another possible explanation is the infrequent weather event called Fata Morgana, where the light that passes through heat waves causes a duplication effect. However, that seemed unlikely because the image on the sky didn't match the skyline below it. Number 7. The Tunguska Incident. The Tunguska Incident was an approximately 12 megaton explosion that occurred near the Tuska River in Russia on the morning of June 30th, 1908. A massive fireball dashed to the ground before exploding about 6 kilometers above the Earth's surface, and this explosion slaughtered a lot of animals and completely crushed the surrounding forest. It even sent a hot shockwave for miles. Now, some scientists believe that the fireball was an asteroid. However, the biggest mystery in this event was that the massive explosion left no crater and no meteor material that can be found to be examined. Others say that the object which blasted into the sky was composed of ice, and that's why it left no debris, and the Tunguska event is the largest impact event on Earth in recorded history, though much larger impacts occurred in prehistoric times. An explosion of this magnitude would be capable of destroying a large metropolitan area. It has been mentioned numerous times in popular culture and has also inspired real-world discussion of asteroid impact avoidance. Number 6. The Phoenix Lights. The Phoenix Lights were a series of widely sighted unidentified flying objects observed in the sky over the southwestern states of Arizona and Nevada on March 13, 1997. Lights of varying descriptions were seen by thousands of people between 7:30 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. in a space of about 300 miles from the Nevada line, Phoenix, to the edge of Tucson. Some witnesses described seeing what appeared to be a huge carpenter square-shaped UFO containing 5 spherical lights. There were 2 distinct events involved in the incident: a triangular formation of lights seen to pass over the state, and a series of stationary lights seen in the Phoenix area. Now, this wasn't the only time the lights were seen there, as many reports of strange lights over the state in 2007 and 2008 also happened. This event has since become one of the most notorious UFO sightings in history. Number 5. Skyquakes. I didn't even know that skyquakes were a thing, so for those of you who don't know, skyquakes are mysterious booms from the the sky, but are not thunder, and they are heard all over the world. The mysterious booms sound like cannon fire rumbling down from the sky. Now, they are commonly heard near water, occasionally rattling windows and plates. Now, some have been explained by military aircraft breaking the sound barrier, but that doesn't account for reports of skywakes heard as far back as 1824. Now, scientists have come up with a few likely causes. Near coasts, the booms may be caused by enormous waves crashing against cliffs. Sand dunes are also capable, through unexplained mechanisms, of producing sounds, including on rare occasions, large booms. Other options are meteors generating sonic booms as they speed into the atmosphere, shock waves caused by coronal mass ejections from the sun smashing into the Earth's magnetic field, distant volcano eruptions, far-off thunder redirected through the upper atmosphere, deep earthquakes making noises by cracking the crust, and gas belching up from underground vents beneath the ocean or lake beds. But the fact that it could be so many things without a definite answer is freaky. Number 4. The Belgian UFO wave. The Belgian UFO wave began in November 1989. Reports were filed many weeks after the event. Now, many of the reports related a large object flying at low altitude. Some reports also stated that the craft was a flat, triangular shape with lights underneath. The Belgian UFO wave peaked with the events of the night of March 30th to 31st, 1990. On that night, one unknown object was tracked on radar, and 2 Belgian Air Force F-16s were sent to investigate, with neither pilot reporting seeing the object. No reports were received from the public on that date, but over the next 2 weeks, reports from 143 people who claimed to have witnessed the object were received, all of them after the event. Over the ensuing months, many others claimed to have witnessed these events as well. Following the incident, the Belgian Air Force released a report detailing the events of that night. Members of the waiver gendarmerie who had been sent to confirm the original report described 4 lights now being arranged in a square formation, all making short, jerky movements before gradually losing their luminosity and disappearing in 4 separate directions at around 1:30 a.m. Number 3. Forest Grove Sound. In 2016, a high-pitched noise was heard intermittently at night in Forest Grove, Oregon. The Department of Forestry determined that their equipment was not the cause of the sound, and the Washington Post described the noise as sounding like a giant flute playing off pitch, car brakes, or a steam whistle. NBC News described it as akin to a bad one-note violin solo broadcast over a microphone with non-stop feedback. It reportedly lasted from 10 seconds to several minutes at a time. The noise occurred near Gales Creek Road. Neither the City of Forest Grove Public Works Department nor the fire department were able to explain the noise. According to NW Natural, there were no problems with gas lines in the Forest Grove at the time. In February 2016, Andrew Dawes, a professor of physics at Pacific University, mapped the locations where the noise had been heard, although the results were inconclusive and did not suggest a single location. Throughout February 2016, approximately 200 calls were made to the Forest Grove Police Department, according to Captain Mike Herb, who said that most of the calls were suggesting explanations for the sound, ranging from frogs to aliens to Bigfoot. In late February 2016, the Forest Grove Police Department announced via Facebook that the noise did not pose a safety hazard, and that the police announced that they were halting their investigation until further information appeared. However, after February 2016, the noise was not heard again. Number 2. UFO photograph. A photo taken in St. Paris, Champaign County in 1932 is considered one of the earliest possible photographs of a UFO ever recorded. It shows George Sutton, a local resident, and what appears to be a classic UFO-shaped object over his left shoulder. Skeptics say the object is simply a street lamp, but according to the folklore that surrounds this image, there were no electric streetlights along this road in 1932, nor are any wires or poles visible in the image. The photo is also intriguing because it predates the flying saucer craze of the late 1940s and 50s. It was taken before the alleged Roswell UFO crash in 1947, and 6 years prior to the broadcast of the War of the Worlds in 1938, when some people believed that aliens were attacking Earth. In other words, the person who took this photograph either captured a street lamp, a real UFO, or was way ahead of the curve in terms of pulling a good hoax. But I'd like to think it's a real UFO. And coming in at number 1 is Marfa lights. Yellow orbs like lamp-lit basketballs hover and twinkle and at times gyrate over the shrubby high desert ground in the shadows of the Chinandé Mountains. They appear in the darkness south of US 90 between Alpine and Marfa. Journalist Michael Hall wrote about seeing the Marfa lights in a June 2006 story in Texas Month. Yellowish white lights that glowed, faded, disappeared, and returned in different places. Sometimes they changed colors, other times they split apart. I couldn't tell if they were 10 miles away or 100, the size of a car or a house. Now just about everyone in Marfa and many who have visited have a story like that. Now no one really knows the answer to these lights, but some believe it is the ghost of Apache chief Alasti who allegedly haunts the area. Other claims it's space aliens trying to contact us, or the ghosts of Spanish conquistadors.
In our number 10 spot, we have Venus passing the sun. I remember when this happened, and it was extraordinary. Now, if you missed it, then that's okay. There will be other magical space phenomena that will happen in your life, I'm sure. But if you didn't, then you will probably remember that on June 5th and 6th of 2012, Venus passed across the sun, causing a small black dot to appear on the sun's surface. It was pretty spectacular and lasted for only 6 hours. Unfortunately, it will not occur till 2117, so we won't get to see it again, but our great-great-grandchildren will, so that's cool for them. Anyways, it feels like there's something new happening in the sky all the time these days, so if you missed this, it's all good. I bet you next we'll all witness a spaceship coming to Earth, and that will be way cooler than Venus looking like a dot on the sun. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe to us for more content like this. In our number 9 spot, we have regrowing a set of teeth. When we are born, we grow baby teeth, and then when we get to a certain age, they fall out and we grow adult teeth. But the process then ends there. If we knock out our adult teeth, then that's it. We can never regrow a set of teeth. It's so interesting to think about the fact that this only happens as a kid and then never ever again. It almost makes the baby teeth falling out process super special, and perhaps this is the root as to why the tooth fairy legend was invented, as a sort of celebratory occasion that will never happen again. Probably not, but whatever. For your tooth, I shall give you $1 as a congrats. This is something that will never ever happen again in an entire lifetime. I will definitely make this a celebratory event when I have kids. In our number 8 spot, we have a dirty thunderstorm. Alright, so what is a dirty thunderstorm? Well, it's a very rare and fantastical thing to occur, and it is created only by a powerful volcanic eruption. Lightning bolts shoot out of an erupting volcano, which is what gave it its name of being dirty. It is apparently one of the most terrifying yet breathtaking things to ever see, and really it's a once-in-a-lifetime sort of thing if you see it. Over the last 2 centuries, over 200 cases of volcanic lightning have been documented, so it's safe to say that probably 200 people have witnessed this. So if you're a part of that very small percentage, then you are very, very lucky. In our number 7 spot, we have your first words. The very first word you ever say on this planet is an extraordinary thing. You will never speak your first word ever again. Your first word could define your whole personality. Okay, fine, that's a stretch. You're a baby. But still, I'm convinced that the humans that say poop as their first word are probably going to grow up and be the class clown, let's be real. This gave me the idea to look up some of the funniest first words ever spoken, and so I've compiled a list for you. Here is my list within this list. This is quite the inception moment. Number 1, poop, of course. 2, balloon. Number 3, shoes. A future shopaholic right there. Number 4, cheese. And 5, gargoyle. All I can imagine is that the parent must have some kind of Hunchback of Notre Dame stuffy that's a gargoyle, because how the heck is that a first word? Just kinda creepy and hilarious all at the same time. Anyways, the first word is a fascinating phenomenon that will never happen again. In our number 6 spot, we have fire rainbows. A fire rainbow is neither a fire in the sky nor a rainbow, but a result of light being refracted as it passes from the moon or the sun over the ice crystals within the atmosphere. This especially happens with cirrostratus or cirrus clouds in the sky. How frequent is it? Well, this is dependent on a few factors, including the region and latitudinal location. In the USA, you can see a fire rainbow usually in the summer, but you rarely can see this phenomena in Europe. The areas that won't see it are usually ones that are 55 degrees north and south of the equator, and that is usually due to conditions required for the formation of their circumhorizon arc. The discovery of the fire rainbow has led to scientific study that has boosted the study in light and the creation of artificial fire rainbows. This would truly be a once-in-a-lifetime thing to see unless you live close to the equator, but still, it would be
truly beautiful to witness. In our number 5 spot, we have the water elephant. This is something so cool that I found that I'm excited to share. This is one of those things that just randomly happens, and it's once in a lifetime and you can't explain it, but it's mind-blowing and so cool to see. This is a picture of an elephant in a lake with 4 humans that are seemingly helping it take a bath. They are throwing water on him, and someone is taking a picture when the most extraordinary thing happens. The water that was thrown on the elephant was in the shape of an elephant. What? That's a magic. You cannot convince me otherwise. In the moment, I bet those people didn't notice, but I wonder how their faces looked when they saw this picture. Life can be so randomly beautiful, and this is definitely one of those moments. In our number 4 spot, we have fire tornadoes. Fire tornadoes are very, very rare and are really quite a new phenomenon, only being documented quite recently. As you can imagine, a fire tornado essentially occurs when great turbulent wind meets a fire, and this creates a rotating eddy of air, which then expands into a tornado. The fire tornado is also known as the fire whirl, fire twister, and firenado. Like I said, they're quite rare, but some people did observe one in 2003 in Canberra, Australia. In our number 3 spot, we have this bizarre once-in-a-lifetime outfit. Okay, this is certainly bizarre, and it happened naturally, and it certainly is one of those things that you see once in a lifetime, and it made me laugh. So let's take a look. A girl posted this pic online and entitled it, "Has anyone seen my grandma?" I truly laughed out loud when it hit me that this girl's grandma is dressed exactly like the carpet. How? Well, I mean, the print is very grandma and carpet-like all in one, but still, so funny and bizarre, and I couldn't help but chuckle, so I had to share. In our number 2 spot, we have the blue lobster. Okay, so before I begin this one, I have to say, I had no idea that a blue lobster even existed. So, lo and behold, it does, folks. And this person online shared a picture of one that her friend's dad caught. Apparently, the chances of catching this lobster are 1 in a million, so yeah, this is one of those situations that doesn't even happen for most people in their lifetime. Apparently, the odds of the lobster being blue in the first place is 1 in 2 million, so yeah, this is a very rare thing to happen. I googled why it is blue, and it is this way due to a genetic abnormality that leads to an overproduction of a certain protein. Anyways, this is pretty cool, and I would think it to be very lucky if you ever saw one in person. In our number 1 spot, we have your first love. Your first love, your first kiss. Ah, they're so special. Aw, I'm feeling so romantic, guys. Can't help myself. This is one of those things that will never happen again, which is why most of us never forget our first love or first kiss. The first has an impact on us and can often define our perspective on relationships in the future, unless we go through intensive therapy. My first kiss is something I will never ever forget, and I certainly won't forget the first time I fell in love. Love is such a bizarre, natural human experience, and one I wish for all of you to experience in your life. Ah, shucks. Okay, we're getting all sappy now. Love you guys.
Starting off this list at our number 10 spot, we have Magnetic Hill. This is a location in India that has a legend surrounding it that suggests there is a magnetic force that pulls at a speed of around 20 kilometers per hour. I guess rather than a place where gravity doesn't exist, this one is like a place where there is just too much of it. This means that if you were to park your car but put it in neutral, while on most other hills you would most certainly roll down, on this hill your car will simply stay put, or maybe even find itself rolling uphill. This doesn't just affect things on the ground, however, it also affects those flying through the sky. It is said that flying over this area is troublesome for planes as well, and that they have to adjust to certain things like their speed in order to try and balance out the oddities of the area. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Mystery Spot. This mysterious location finds its home in Santa Cruz, California, and it was first discovered to be a place of interest in 1939. It is said that while searching this place, they felt some sort of different forces at work. The spot is about 150 square feet inside of a circular area, and it is said that the reason for the strange occurrences here is some sort of change in the magnetic field. It is said that at this mystery spot you can see water flowing upwards, balls rolling uphill, and people can lean further over than normal without falling down. There are many theories as to how this spot became what it is, and they range quite a bit. Some people swear it's just all an optical illusion, while others are certain that it's a result of a meteor that fell to Earth long ago and it created some sort of magic circle. In our number 8
8 spot today we have the reverse waterfall. This mysterious and strange location is another one that comes from India. Here, there is a waterfall, but it's got a catch. While we all of course expect to see water cascading down when we think of a waterfall, this strange location instead sees the water moving towards the sky. Some people believe it's because of some anti-gravitational force, others think it's due to heavy air pressure, and I'm not a scientist, so I'll let you decide on this one. While this certainly is quite a strange place, it also definitely delivers when it comes to beauty. I think even if the water flowed down like a normal waterfall, this area would still see a lot of tourists just because of the immense natural beauty. In our number 7 spot today we have the St. Ignace Mystery Spot. For this spot, let's start off with the story behind it. Legend goes that in the 1950s, some surveyors were exploring through Michigan's Upper Peninsula when one day it was realized that none of their equipment was working as it normally should. They of course began doing some troubleshooting and testing, and it was then discovered that these tools were only acting up in a circle that was about 300 feet in diameter, and thus this mystery spot was now discovered. This spot is now visited very often as it has become quite the attraction for tourists who want to see the place where, quote, gravity does strange things. It is said that at this mystery spot, tall people appear short, and sometimes if a person stays for too long, they might even start to feel a little bit queasy or lightheaded, so visitors beware. In our number 6 spot today we have the Australian Magnetic Hill. Over in Australia, we of course have another magnetic hill. This one is sitting a few hours northeast of Adelaide. As you near the area, you will see a gigantic sculpture of a magnet, and that is definitely how you can tell that you were in the right place. Through some sort of combination of topographic anomalies, this hill has some strange occurrences. Of course, like other magnetic hills, when you park your car in neutral, you expect and assume it will roll backwards, but here the car will, or at least it appears to, roll upwards instead. It is also said that not only does the car seemingly climb, but it also gains speed as it does. At the end of the day, despite what it may seem like, this is mostly just an optical illusion rather than some sort of strange force. In our number 5 spot today we have Cosmo's Mystery Area. This location is another one of those popular tourist attractions due to the unusual things that can be seen here. Apparently the trees bow in weird angles, which is one of the reasons this area was discovered, but it doesn't stop at that. When playing a game of catch, well, things aren't quite as simple as they are in most other places. Here the ball is likely to go off course in ways you wouldn't expect. It is also another one of those places where you can find yourself leaning over a lot further without falling than you normally would be able to. We're talking like the gravity-defying Michael Jackson lean. While everywhere else that is quite the feat, here at the mystery area, it's all just a part of the attraction. In our number 4 spot today we have Spook Hill. This hill is located in Florida, and it is said to be another one of the anomalies where gravity just doesn't seem to work correctly. It is said that the name of this place comes from a time when the indigenous people to the land were being removed by settlers. Here, while those who already knew the land were likely accustomed to the oddities, those who were newly settling and stealing the territory were confused by it. This is because as they were riding horses, they noticed that the horses were having a harder time going downhill than uphill, which of course would be different from the norm. This is what led to the nicknaming of the spot as Spook Hill, and ever since then it has been baffling people ever since. In our number 3 spot today we have Mount Aragats. This location is only about 30 kilometers away from the border of Turkey, and it has become quite a popular tourist attraction. Cars can go up parts of the mountain without using their engines, rivers are seen flowing against the pull of gravity. It's a strange place, and it's got a legend to match. According to ancient legend, this mountain and Mount Ararat, which is a dormant volcano, are said to have been sisters who were separated after a fight. Currently the mountains are now even separated politically. This has led to a strong love between the mountains, and in their efforts to reconnect, we experience these strange gravitational phenomena. In our number 2 spot today we have the Inverted Falls. On the island of Suvura, which sits in the southern part of the Faroe Islands, residents experienced a very strange phenomena that they called the inverted waterfall. Basically, like the reverse waterfall, people experienced water spraying upwards instead of flowing downwards. According to weather experts, this was a result of a spiral column of air rotating up, sort of like a tornado. The edge of the cliff only helps to create a stronger rotation, which then sees a funnel of wind and water that appears to be rising and spraying upwards. Once we look at the science, of course this isn't a case of zero gravity, but it certainly is quite a fantastic weather phenomenon. In our number 1 spot today we have the Golden Boulder. This rock, or really boulder, truly does look like it could fall at any second, but here's the thing. It's been sitting there for 2,500 years. On top of the boulder sits a pagoda, and while the boulder itself is said to be a naturally occurring formation, it is sitting on top of a natural rock platform. This is certainly a precarious situation, as on the side of the rock formation there is a vertical drop into the valley below. I mean, it seems like a terrifying situation, and somehow this rock just remains. There is of course a legend that goes hand in hand with this location and how the rock seemingly defies gravity, and that legend suggests that the reason this rock sits in place so well is because it is being held by a strand of the Buddha's hair. This boulder really isn't fixed in place, it just happens to remain there without any support, which really is pretty astounding. It is believed that this boulder can only be moved by the touch of a woman, which is the reason that women aren't allowed to touch the rock.
Number 10. Foxfire. We discussed a bit about bioluminescent fish, plankton, and worms, but mushrooms? Foxfire is a specific kind of bioluminescent mushroom that grows from decaying trees. Similar to other creatures we discussed last time, foxfire feeds off the decaying forest matter, which results in the chemical reaction of two chemicals which we talked about last time. Make sure you go and check out part 1 if you don't know what I'm talking about, which causes a breathtaking glow. What makes this phenomenon even more unique is just how bright it can get. Fairy fire, as it's also called, can get so bright that some say you could comfortably read a book next to it if that was your only light source. So if your favorite spot to read is cozied up in a forest somewhere, seek out some foxfire and you'll be set to read all night and day. Number 9. The red tide. Sounds kind of ominous, and in many ways it kind of is. The red tide, or HABs, aka harmful algal blooms, are equally dangerous and astounding. They occur when the population of algae gets out of control and produce chemicals potentially dangerous to any surrounding creatures, i.e. humans, fish, shellfish, you name it. The disease caused by the red tide, which can infect humans, can be fatal. The most common occurrence of the red tide happens along Florida's Gulf Coast and can even make the air surrounding them toxic. Their appearance can also affect local economies, as the algae can also affect the quality of any seafood in the area. Scientists at the National Ocean Service have been monitoring them for years in order to see how to better predict them so as to give communities fair warning, but it still remains a work in progress. So if you do ever see blood red water, there's more than one reason to get the heck out of there, so be careful. Number 8. An aquatic rainfall. If your anthem is Raining Men by the Weather Girls, then this may be the closest you'll ever get to that. Maybe. Imagine staring outside your window during a thunderstorm, and instead of raindrops you see tadpoles, frogs, fish, birds, and even grosser, insects getting swept away by your windshield wipers. Sounds crazy, and it is, but that certainly doesn't mean it can't happen in this crazy world of ours. This phenomenon is known as an aquatic rainfall. Various forms of usually aquatic wildlife are swept up by tornadoes, thunderstorms, and waterspouts and eventually succumb to the laws of gravity. What goes up must come down. It is entirely unpredictable unless, after a particularly strong storm, you notice the koi fish in your pond outside have mysteriously disappeared. But for all those still holding out hope for the Raining Men scenario, maybe pick up a few frogs and see if any of them are secretly princes. Otherwise, dream on, sweetheart. Number 7. The green flash. I'm a massive Pirates of the Caribbean fan, so I was delighted to find out that this phenomenon was actually real, but unfortunately there is no real Will Turner at the end of it, and Captain Jack Sparrow is nowhere to be seen, so not that great. Anyway, it is also far less extravagant as portrayed in the film and happens more than 10 years apart, so there's that too. The green flash is an optical illusion that occurs when the sun is just about to sink below the horizon, or as it's slowly rising, and appears to glow green for about 1 to 2 seconds. At that angle, the atmosphere bends the light passing through it, and it acts like a prism separating the light into different colors. Blue and violet are scattered by the atmosphere, red, orange, and yellow are absorbed, leaving green as the last one standing. If you want to witness the phenomenon, stay close to a flat horizon on a clear day and wait patiently. Keep your eyes out for a ship as well, you know, just in case. Number 6. Sundogs. Dog lovers, don't get too excited. I'm not talking about some kind of extremely blonde dog breed that shines like the sun. Sorry to disappoint you, but I did just film a video on Bumblebee about some other dog breeds, so stay tuned for that. But what sundogs actually are a natural phenomenon that occurs in, you guessed it, the sky. 2 large spots of light sit on either side of the sun, giving the appearance that we have 3 suns blaring down on us. While illusions like rainbows reflect through water droplets, sundogs occur because of ice in the atmosphere. When ice crystals are suspended within the clouds, they act as prisms and reflect the light back, causing the appearance of 2 suns. Number 5. Moonbows. I love that. moonbows. So you've heard of rainbows, even double rainbows, but what about moonbows? Similar to actual rainbows, which are created when sunbeams reflect through rain droplets, moonbows are when moonlight reflects instead. They are pretty rare as the moon has to be especially bright to make it happen, but it certainly can and has happened. The moon must also be the fullest in its cycle and be sitting closely to the horizon. So for all of our werewolves and night owls watching, let us know in the comments if you've ever caught this phenomenon. Number 4, the columnar basalt. A phenomenon by many names: the Organ Pipes, Kilt Rock, Samson's Ribs, the Giant's Causeway, as well as a few yet unnamed places on Mars. Columnar basalt is a curious formation that looks man-made but isn't. It is a rock formation that takes the shape of multiple vertical pillars, so uniform in shape that they look like someone poured concrete into a hexagonal or polygonal mold. But alas, the aliens didn't help us build them. It is all just science, my friends. These unique creations are actually the result of lava outpouring and cooling at a consistent rate. The lava then cracks, which causes the surface to spread downward, resulting in their shape. The most famous example for you to check out seems to be the Giant's Causeway in Ireland, though it occurs in multiple places around the world. Even with the explanation, it still remains one of the most awe-inspiring phenomenons in the world. Number 3, Spotted Lake, for all my Canadians out there, including myself. And Chris. There you go. 8. Number 3, Spotted Lake. Pretty much exactly as it sounds, located in British Columbia, Canada. You may think the reason people visit this lake in the summer is to enjoy a refreshing swim, but it's actually to enjoy the view. In the summer, most of the water evaporates, leaving behind multiple mini pools of water, each a different color. From pale blue to pale yellow, the color of each spot depends on whatever mineral deposits are within the pools themselves. Magnesium sulfate makes up the majority of the pools themselves, and during World War II, some of the minerals were even harvested for ammunitions. Interesting, right? A lot of salt also collects on the surface, and Chinese laborers would often collect it to have it shipped across the world. Now the spot is mostly a tourist attraction, and based on the pics, I can definitely see why. Number 2, ball lightning. Ball lightning is one of the absolute weirdest and most perplexing examples of phenomenon on this list, and scientists still can't quite explain it. It usually appears in thunderstorms, but unlike anything else shooting from the sky, it appears as an orb floating in the sky that ranges in color from blue to orange to yellow, and then disappears. Stranger still, it has been known to make a hissing sound and emit an acrid odor. Sounds too odd to be true, especially since many people have never seen it. Many people believe that it is simply a myth, but scientists agree that it does exist. It was first recorded in 1638 as a great ball of fire flying through an English church, which I'm actually surprised they interpreted it that way. Maybe they didn't, who knows. Then, researchers in Lanzhou, China, Northwest Normal University, accidentally caught video footage of the occurrence during a thunderstorm in 2012. The ball appeared just after a lightning strike and traveled for 10 meters before it disappeared. The spectrometer tracking the ball detected iron, silicon, and calcium in it, which was present in the soil around the location. Scientists are looking for people who have reported seeing them, so if you have, let them know. Number 1, last but not least, the mysterious spot. Great name, man. We don't know what it is, so we're just gonna call it the mysterious spot. The mysterious spot in Santa Cruz, California seems to be a place where gravity just doesn't work, or at least decided to play by its own rules. It was discovered in 1939 by a group of surveyors, and only a year later it opened to the public. It is described as a circular area only 46 meters in diameter and is rife with mind-melding optical illusions. It's difficult to sufficiently explain what happens there, so let me just show you this. Check out this video of people defying the laws of gravity while on site. Scientists still aren't quite sure as to why this place exists, but theories range from alien involvement, of course, to theories that perhaps CO2 is leaking from the Earth, or that it's due to the hole in the ozone layer, or a magma vortex, or it's the highest dielectric biocosmic radiation area known in the world. Whatever that means. Whatever the reason, and according to the official website, it remains a mystery. Number 10, a barnacle. A barnacle? What? Not a barnacle. AKA the ice finger of death that I just mentioned. Sounds scarier than it actually is, but it's definitely as cold. Mostly found in, you guessed it, icy regions. These crazy ice fingers happen when rapidly sinking icy salty water hits the ocean floor. This brine is colder than the water it's passing through, and as a result it forms ice crystals slow enough for the human eye to see. But when it hits the bottom, it fans out, claiming the lives of any nearby slow-moving crustaceans or starfish. Humans don't really need to fear them, especially because divers don't often dive in water that cold. However, special divers who study them have to be careful and take precautions to prevent hypothermia. But still, really cool, eh? Number 9. The door to hell. Many superstitions surround the door to hell, and you can guess why because of the name it's being given. Duh. This place is so mysterious, people even think this might be one of the doors to hell. Why? Because this pit has been burning over 40 years. In 1971, scientists discovered the area while attempting to drill for oil on the site. While drilling, they accidentally hit a gas pocket and the whole thing collapsed into a crater. Scientists were nervous that poisonous gases might be released into the air, so they set it on fire to burn off the gas. Of course, expecting it to stop eventually, but it hasn't yet, and you can even visit should you wish to test the theory that the devil is waiting for you. You naughty thing. Number 8. Blood Falls. The name Blood Falls is a name that pretty much describes exactly what someone said when they first saw it. Oh look! A waterfall of blood! Because that's exactly what it looks like. Located in Antarctica, this natural phenomenon terrifies onlookers as bright red water flows against the stark white of the snow. But the actual reason behind this phenomenon is far less gruesome than initially suspected. Anyways, nobody got murdered, that's the thing. Beneath the Taylor Glacier, a super salty body of water was trapped around 2 million years ago, entirely cut off from oxygen, heat, and light. When a fissure appeared, this lonely water pocket slowly leaks out and reacts with the oxygen in the air, and the result is this fantastic hue of red trickling down. Crazy, right? Number 7. Fairy circles. Should you ever get the privilege of enjoying Namibian safaris, you will not only get to witness the oldest desert in the world, but wild horses, wildebeest, and dik-dik for example. But one of the most mysterious sights are the fairy circles. Across the desert landscapes there are strange, baffling, barren circles surrounded by patches of vegetation, each around 10 to 65 feet in diameter. They span for hundreds of miles, and local legend says that they were created by the footprints of gods. And for a while, that was the only explanation. Scientists were stumped when it came to this phenomenon, though through decades of research, they have discerned that the circles form due to termites and self-organizing plants. But if you prefer to think that fairies or gods formed them, I think that's still pretty cool. So, up to you. Number 6. The red crab migration. Perhaps even stranger than an island named Christmas is the red crab migration that happens there. Around October and November of every year, these bright red crustaceans swarm and crawl all the way to the seaside to prepare to breed. They absolutely cover the island floor like a bright red Krusty the Krab flood. The reason they migrate is specifically timed to the lunar cycles because by the time they reach the beach, the tide is low enough for them to bury their eggs so that when it rises again, they can hatch and just go right into the water. So if you plan on spending some time on Christmas Island just to see if you'll meet Santa, make sure you've got some iron-toed shoes. Don't want to accidentally get pinched by one of these guys, that would suck. Number 5. Lake Natron. Introducing the deadliest lake in Tanzania, Lake Natron. Many people visit Tanzania for its beauty and to witness the might that is Mount Kilimanjaro, but very few wish to encounter this lake. Though it's pretty cool to look at, its magnificent orangey red color is essentially a warning flag. This place is so poisonous, keep out. Due to a caustic mixture of minerals and salt, this lake could burn your skin off, except for flamingos love this place, it's where they raise their young. Mostly because predators won't go near it. But they have to be careful, for if it rains too much, the water can raise the alkalinity level of the lake so high that it could even kill them. Only one kind of fish, the alkaline tilapia, lives in the water amongst hosts of salt-obsessed microorganisms. Cool. Number 4. Bioluminescence. This is probably one of my favorites because I just think it's so magical. From bioluminescent glowworms in New Zealand to biobays in places like Puerto Rico, these magical little creatures add yet another reason as to why nature is so beautiful. Personally, visiting at least one of these sites is on my bucket list. Bioluminescence is a kind of glow-in-the-dark effect that has a breathtaking result. For instance, dinoflagellates in Puerto Rico give off a neon blue-green color, creating a stardust appearance while you walk rock on the beach. The reason it happens is all due to a chemical reaction that happens inside their cells. When two different molecules come in contact with oxygen, it produces light. Animals control when this happens by controlling the movement of the oxygen in their cells, and some even have a symbiotic relationship with creatures that can't do this. They get safety and they get to be their host's own personal flashlight. Sweet deal. Number 3. Lightning strikes more than once. Well, at least it does happen in Venezuela. One of the most fantastic lightning storms in the world is near Lake Maracaibo in Venezuela. Besides being absolutely massive, measuring 5,100 square miles, come rainy season, you're in for quite a show. Around October, this lake absorbs around 28 lightning bolts per minute, amounting to a staggering 250 bolts per square kilometer per year. There are a couple of theories as to why this happens, but scientists still haven't been able to confirm any concrete reason for it. In the 1960s, scientists put forth that it might be due to high amounts of uranium, or that methane released from oil fields caused it, but there still remains insufficient proof. So my theory? Thor likes to go swimming in the rain. Why not? Before we go on, guys, make sure to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe, and head over to Bumblebee as well and give that some love too. Number 2, the sailing stones. They may not move fast, but when they do, it confuses the heck out of people. Unless they're called the Rolling Stones. They've been touring forever. They're probably gonna keep moving until they die. This phenomenon is located in California, and these rocks seem to be anything but dead. In the middle of the desert, there are stones that have massive trails behind them, though they can't be moving due to any gravitational force. They vary in size from a couple to hundreds of pounds. It took a while for scientists to figure out just how this was happening, and the answer will still make your brows furrow. Through an experiment using a freezer and some Tupperware, they may have the answer. With the right combination of ice, water, and wind, the rock can be lifted by the melted water and moved, leaving the trail in its wake. Still sounds pretty crazy, but hey, nature is pretty wild. And last but not least, will-o'-the-wisps. Will-o'-the-wisps are so interesting, and I can imagine the first person to ever see them must have thought it was magic, because of course, which in a way, science kind of is magic. After all, just because something has a logical reason doesn't make it any less magical. Will-o'-the-wisps are tiny balls of light that appear above swamps and bogs. Of course, they have been the subject of fairy folklore for hundreds of years due to their mysterious appearances. There are a couple of theories, one that they could be white owls reflecting light off the surface of the water, to fireflies, to fairies, but the leading theory is that they are actually balls of methane gas. Methane is a common element in swamps or marshy areas due to the amount of decomposition happening beneath the water's surface. As the methane rises to the surface, it reacts with phosphine, another gas found in these areas, creating the blue light. There is still a fair amount of skepticism surrounding this story, so if you do want to believe that they are in fact fairies, go for it.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have Tsingy National Park. Tsingy National Park is located on the western edge of Madagascar, but today I want to talk about the two large geographical features in the park, which are Big Tsingy and Little Tsingy. Tsingy can be translated into English as roughly where one cannot walk barefoot, and when you see this place, you'll realize this name makes a lot of sense. These rock formations are plateaus that have had deep ruts cut into them by groundwater, which has left them totally unable to be walked on or through. This whole area is incredibly fascinating and is the home to many endemic species because of its unusual geomorphology. Some of these species are found only within extremely small areas within the Tsingys because the summit, slope, and base of one limestone needle will all form entirely different ecosystems, which is truly just unbelievable. The Tsingys are a perfect example of what happens when humans just leave a place alone and let nature and the earth just exist. It would be an amazing place to go and explore, but because of the nature of the limestone needles, we just can't, and that truly is probably for the best. In our number 9 spot today, we have Lake Vostok. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video. It really helps us out, and I appreciate it. Many of us have heard of Atlantis, but have you heard of Lake Vostok? Okay, there's probably no underwater city, so maybe that was an exaggeration, but it's still really cool. This lake is located in Antarctica, and it is so huge, it's one of the largest lakes in the entire world. The lake not only has a large surface area, but it's also really deep, which only adds to the volume of the lake. So here's the thing about it though. It is covered by ice, and not just any ice, but by the East Antarctic ice sheet, which is just the largest ice sheet in the world. This subglacial lake has ice so thick that we don't know a lot about what lies beneath it, and the ice has been there for millions of years. When the first samples of the actual lake water were taken, it did become very apparent that there may be many species in the lake that we know absolutely nothing about. This is like the most lakey lake out there, and it could be hiding who knows how many secrets. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Star Mountains of Papua New Guinea. This massive mountain range is located in Papua New Guinea, and although we of course know about it, much of the area remains completely untouched by humans. This area is thought to be one of the wettest places on the earth, as it sees more than 10,000 millimeters of rain every year. At that point, you wonder why they're still measuring in millimeters, but hey, I'm not a weatherman. Due to the rain and just how torrential the downpour is, there isn't a spot in the entire range that can house a weather station. There was an attempt made to explore the range in 1959 by a man named Jan Sneap, who wanted to try and map out the area, and it was slightly successful, but not without struggle. During the expedition, they had 2 helicopters, but due to the altitudes, one of them ended up crashing, and they were forced to rely on their own manpower from then on. While this of course would suggest that humans have at some point visited the mountain range, as I previously mentioned, there are most definitely areas that remain unvisited by humans, and it's probably for the best if we just leave it that way. In our number 7 spot today, we have Death Road. North Youngest Road has the nickname Death Road, and honestly, when you just look at it, you can totally understand why. This 69-kilometer road is full of hairpin turns, and of course, it's on the side of a mountain. Not to mention the fog, landslides, and the waterfalls. It was so dangerous that until 1994, there were at least 300 drivers a year who were getting killed on this road. This road connects the Amazon rainforest to the capital city, so it was happening often that salespeople would cram into trucks or buses filled with their woods and crops in order to try and sell them. The issue, however, was that the sharp turns were not wide enough for these larger vehicles, which would, of course, lead to them falling off the edge of the cliff, which was always fatal. There have certainly been steps taken to make the road slightly more safe for tourists, but it still remains one of the most dangerous places in the world. It is such a shame though, because it looks absolutely beautiful. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Sakha Republic. Russia is the largest country in the world, but there is an area in it called the Sakha Republic, which is the 8th largest territory in the world, and it remains mostly untouched by humans. Like, this area is so large, it's only slightly smaller than India. The majority of this territory is above the Arctic Circle, making it basically like a desert, except for exactly the opposite. It's the freezing cold kind. There is so little of a population in this area that if all the residents were spread out, there would be more than a square mile in between each person. But here's the thing, you can't really live in most of this region. I mean, you can, but not without extreme difficulty. The ground is covered by permafrost, which of course has a huge impact on the ecology of the region. The Verkhoyansk range is located within this region, and that range is known as the coldest area in the northern hemisphere. Because of the extreme weather, much of the region has gone unexplored and untouched by man. And honestly, I can completely understand why. Would you want to go there? In our number 5 spot today, we have the Siwa Oasis. Siwa is an urban oasis between the Qattara Depression and the Great Sand Sea in the Western Desert. This oasis is one of Egypt's most isolated settlements, but it is the home to around 33,000 people. The residents have developed a unique and isolated desert culture and language called Siwi, but they are also fluent in the Egyptian dialect of Arabic. The oasis isn't necessarily a super popular tourist destination, as the closest city is Cairo, and the oasis is around a 5-hour bus ride away and is of course in the middle of the desert, but those who do take the trip certainly aren't disappointed. If visiting, you can enjoy some locally grown dates and olives, which I can only imagine are incredible. You can swim in Cleopatra's Bath, which is a mineral spring, and you can even stay at the Desert Eco Lodge, which is built from mud and salt. Tourism is actually a vital source of income for the oasis, so visitors are welcomed. Because of how isolated Siwa is, the culture and the traditions of the people who live here really have been preserved, which would make it such an interesting and wonderful place to visit. If I ever get the incredible opportunity of going to Egypt, I think Siwa would be on the top of my list for places to visit. In our number 4 spot today, we have Itorkotamim. This town is located in one of the most remote areas of Greenland and actually requires a helicopter ride from the nearest airport in order to actually get to the town. Its modern discovery came quite recently, actually, in 1925 by a Danish polar explorer and around 80 Inuit settlers, and it is about as far as you can get from any other inhabited area in Greenland. Despite this recent settling, based on ruins and other archaeological remains, it became clear that this area was once inhabited sometime in our history by Inuit populations of the past. There's around 450 residents now, and the town is known for its wildlife that includes polar bears, musk oxen, and seals. This place can be a popular tourist destination because of the stunning northern lights as well as all of the other natural wonders. Cruise ships also love to stop here, but that can be a little tricky considering 9 months out of the year sea ice will block any ship from docking. In our number 3 spot today we have Cape Melville. Cape Melville is located in Australia, and it is the home to one of the lost worlds here on Earth. It truly wasn't discovered until recently, and that is due to the surrounding wall of granite boulders that are hundreds of feet tall. But inside this stone wall is an amazing, mysterious, and uncharted rainforest, which is just the coolest thing. Because of the more recent discovery and the lack of exploration, this area has been preserved in its natural state, which is something that's not easily found on our super populated planet. This place is only accessible by helicopter and has only seen one major scientific exploration, but on this one adventure, at least 3 new species were found. I'm sure there will be further research of the area to learn about all of the endemic species that live here and to study how they evolved to fit in this interesting ecosystem. The Earth really is just so cool. In our number 2 spot today we have the Son Doong Cave. This cave is located in Vietnam, and it is the largest cave in the world. The name means the river mountain cave, and it was created somewhere between 2 to 5 million years ago from river water eroding away the limestone. In some areas of the cave the ceiling collapsed, which has created these insanely cool skylights. These areas have allowed many plants and trees to grow, and it has definitely increased the vegetation in a cave. The cave is around 9 kilometers long, and it is the home to the tallest known stalagmites in the world, with these mineral deposits getting up to around 70 meters tall. There was a plan to install a cable car through the cave to create a tourist attraction, but thankfully those plans were cancelled due to the potential harm that it would cause the environment, which I personally think most of us can agree was for the best. In our number 1 spot today we have Mount Bosavi. This mountain is located in the Southern Highlands province of Papua New Guinea, but it is actually the collapsed cone of an extinct volcano. I didn't know that volcanoes could be extinct. This volcano actually collapsed to create a crater that is around 4 kilometers wide and 1 kilometer deep. There isn't a ton that is known about this area, but in 2009 an international team of scientists went down there on an expedition that was entirely filmed by the BBC Natural History Unit. It is believed that this crater was created around 200,000 years ago, and during the crew's time researching the area, there were 40 new species that were uncovered as the crater has its very own fascinating isolated ecosystem. Who knows what more may be down there just waiting for us to uncover.